Breadbox Media programming is brought to you by Jack Kane Ford. Find your next Ford Tough vehicle at caneford.com. Woodhill Community Center. Have a hand in the heart of the city. Support their mission with your donations at woodhillcommunitycenter.org. Toyota in Nicholasville Superstore. Online consultants are standing by right now to help you find your next Toyota. Visit toyotaonnicholasville.com. Lexus of Lexington, home of the best-selling Lexus IS. Find yours today at lexusoflexington.com. Introducing the redesigned CatholicSingles.com, featuring new ways that put the spotlight on the person and their faith, not just a profile picture. For the past 20 years, faithful Catholics have used CatholicSingles.com, and the reimagined CatholicSingles.com website is ready to help single Catholics take the next step in sharing meaningful relationships with other faithful Catholics. Remember, CatholicSingles.com for faith, fellowship, and love.
Friends, and welcome back to another episode of Lisa, Hendey, and Friends. I know you thought I was going to come back to you with an Australian accent, but I actually just still sound like a California girl, even though I've been gallivanting around Sydney and Canberra for the last few weeks, but I'm so happy to be back home now. That was an amazing trip, and I'm hoping actually to bring a guest in the next few weeks who can help me recap that for you. But in the meantime, we're going to jump right ahead to a really wonderful podcast that we're going to feature today. A friend of mine, and I can't believe we've been friends for over 10 years now. And I'm just so happy to introduce this very special person to you. Daniel Smrokowski is our guest today, and he was born 3.5 months premature and was diagnosed with learning disabilities and a severe language disorder. But Daniel has gone on to receive his bachelor's in journalism from Roosevelt University, and he is, most importantly, the founder of Special Chronicles, which is a brilliant nonprofit media platform that gives respect and voice to people with special needs. Daniel is an award-winning columnist covering special needs stories, and he's also involved as an athlete, global messenger, and board member with Special Olympics Illinois. In 2018, Daniel was named as a ComEd Energy Force Ambassador and a Global Able Finder Ambassador. And now we welcome to the program my good friend Daniel Smrokowski. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Lisa. Thank you. That was a long introduction.
Your bio gets longer and longer every time. Actually, it could be like 3 times as long because you're one of those super productive people who's committed to such a great mission. But before we talk about the professional stuff, I like to ask my guests, what's your story? So tell us a little bit of your story, Daniel.
So, well, you covered a lot of it in my bio, but so I was 29 years ago, which then I had a lot more hair. Listeners can't see us. Well, besides the picture that you put up, but and I was born 3 1/3 months premature in around where you live in Long Beach, California, and I was actually baptized in the hospital since I was born, and I was in a small incubator, and so it wasn't I wasn't baptized in a physical church, mm-hmm. but because of all the medical issues and challenges that I had 29 years ago, what I usually say now is, one time when I was born, I was diagnosed with learning disabilities and a severe language disorder. And what I say now through all the public speaking and media appearances and podcasts and columns and stories, is I usually tell people that communication is my biggest that communication is my biggest struggle, but it's also my biggest passion. And I just saw a clip on Instagram just yesterday of the TV show The Good Doctor, which stars a character who has autism. There was a clip on there that said pulling it up here, the character on the Good Doctor ABC's Instagram said his greatest challenge is his greatest strength, and that kind of goes along with that quote that I just told you.
Yeah, I love that. I'm wondering if you were to ask me, what mine is. I have to think about that. But one thing that's always inspired me about you, Daniel, is that you don't let anybody put you in a box. and I think I've been able to watch you. I can't believe it, but I've sort of watched you grow up. So you're 29 now. Yeah. You joked about your hair. I'm thinking, okay, well, my hair was a lot less gray than it was 29 years ago, or was less gray back then. I think you and I met when you were still a student, and we were contemporaries in sort of the first wave of podcasting. And I know that you've been a wonderful friend to CatholicMom.com. And in the years since you graduated from college, you've gone on to make Special Chronicles your full-time work, and you've created this beautiful platform that now you're really using every available media, and you're I think you're a little more professional. I always like to tinker with whatever the latest platform is, but I see you really diving in and now using live and doing Instagram and everything just to get your message across. But how did you actually get started back in that first wave of podcasting, which was happening around 2007, 2008? What made you dive in? Why did you think this was something for you?
Well, first, I can't believe that it's been more than 10 years that we've been friends. But I've always loved journalism, and which is what I got my degree in, and which is what I was studying when we first met. And I remember. I remember very visually. I was in the university library, and doing my first semester. So back in the fall of 2008, and actually it even goes back to July 2008. I was it was right after I graduated from high school. I went to my first Theology on Tap, which I don't know how many. Oh
yeah, we know what that is. Beer and cod. It's a good combination.
Yeah, and and this was on a not my college campus, but another college campus, and that was when I first found out about the Busted Halo cast, not the radio show, but the podcast. And I just saw a little flyer at the Theology on Tap, and so I took one, and it's been a month since I just graduated from high school, and I never knew what podcasts were, and like I had no. I mean, I always loved, like in high school, and I always loved writing and making videos and telling stories, but I never really knew what podcast was. So I took one, I started listening, and then somehow I found out about Father Wadwick's podcast, and then shortly after USQPN and Rosary Army, and then in the fall of 2008, I was sitting in the university library. And I remember listening to, I believe, the very last episode of Greg and Jennifer's Rosary Army podcast, which to this day, I still carry with me the All Trying Not Rosary that I got 10 years ago from them. I have no clue why, but somehow I still 10 years later I still have that. And so that's kind of how I found out about podcasts. And then it was then a few months later, in March of 2009, I became a global messenger, which is a public speaker, a spokesperson through the athlete leadership programs for Special Olympics Illinois. And I started giving speeches to over 100 high school students and other community groups. And I recorded the audio of those keynote talks that I was given of my story and how my experiences of how Special Olympics has transformed my life. And once I put those up online, that's when I started getting emails and social media messages from people across the globe of how my story was impacted. And that's really how Special Chronicles began, and how I didn't have the name Special Chronicles in the first year because you're just trying to kind of learn and even when I first started listening to that first Busted Halo cast and first started and even by the Waddocks and Gregory Jennifer's in the fall of 2008 and started listening, I didn't exactly think that A, people would be able to understand me, B, that people would accept or include me within this podcasting community and through this online communication. But soon after, I started putting the audio of those speeches up online, and it's been really empowering and really amazing, the gifts despite all the challenges that I have. It's been really amazing, the gifts that God has given me despite these challenges, and it's been a blessing that I've been able to have this mission, not just for myself, but for other people as well with disabilities who have been, which I never knew, but like one person I met in Los Angeles in 2015 who is also a Special Olympics athlete who is been inspired to start blogging, and she first started blogging on Special Chronicles as a contributor, and then went on to write some blogs for Special Olympics International. But when we first met in Los Angeles, she said that she already knew about me and she already knew about Special Chronicles, which I had no idea that when I was like in downtown Los Angeles at this Touch One event, that I would run into somebody who's
impacted by your work. It's interesting, yeah. Daniel. I think so many of us who love podcasting, we have similar kind of like seminal root stories that we can trace our stories back to, sort of the pioneers. For me, Greg and Jennifer and Father Roderick were definitely impactful on my learning about podcasting, my learning to podcast. And I think it's a great blessing of the power of these, well, we can't even call them new media anymore, these sort of creative media, things like podcasting or social media, that there's an intimacy, a friendship that forms. And even though we don't necessarily get to see one another very regularly, it's like if you listen to a podcast or you're connected to someone on social media, it's almost like you know them and they're with you in your daily journey. And so it doesn't surprise me that for someone who has defied expectations the way that you have, that the work that you would do would reach out and encourage other people who have similar challenges that you face. I just look at you and think on the productivity level, the work that you do every day inspires me. So I don't see any of the challenges. I just see the massive production of work that you do every day and how impressive it is. And you've gone on to extend into a full nonprofit media organization. So how, at this point, what does Special Chronicles actually look like, and what is some of the work that you're doing to motivate other people and to share these stories?
Well, it's still pretty small. Besides myself, my dad, who helps out with the business side, and then we have two other friends who are on our board of directors. But I'm still, as of time where we recording this, I'm in this year, I'm still not paid full time from Special Chronicles. I still have another part-time job, and
welcome to the life of Catholic social media.
Yeah. But what was the question again?
Oh, just what all is involved now, because you have the podcast, you have the blog, you're also doing social media, and you're doing public speaking as well, right?
Yeah. Yes. So what's involved is through, well, one listener who has a physical disability in Hawaii, I got an email from, and he said, he sent me this a couple years ago, and I still we remember it. But he said so often he feels alone that he's found a community by listening to the podcast and stories on Special Chronicles. So. Which I'm so grateful that people like him who found that community here, and so I started with the idea of having a number of different shows on a radio or a TV network. But what I discovered a couple of years ago when I was in Los Angeles, and I talked with a supporter and listener, and Wadey tried to kind of redefine and Wadey make just one radio show, and Wadey tried to kind of get more into video and kind of record a video companion to the audio podcast, because there's still many people who, as you know, listen to the audio programs, but then there's such a huge video audience now that I don't think was there as much as when we started 10 years ago. But so I'm trying to stick with the one main audio program and the video, trying to the award-winning Special Voices column that I write, which I took a year off and writing it in the newspaper in a local town community paper because they took the pay down, and so I kind of stepped away from that, and I actually just discovered by picking up the paper that they got a new editor. So I kind of took the past year off of that, and exactly a year later, so this past July 2018, I had an opportunity with being the athlete representative on the communications committee for the Special Olympics 50th anniversary. I had an opportunity to write a guest column in the Chicago Sun-Times, which is a big market newspaper.
That's like a huge paper, and you did a great job on that too.
Yeah, and thanks. Yeah, and even some random person on the street. I was at a private reception with like a bunch of celebrities, and I'll try not to name drop anyone, but my sister and our future brother-in-law went in with me, but my parents were down on the street, and my mom had told me that somebody went up to her and said that they read this column in the Sun-Times, which was very, like, I'm sure you know, but it's still, even with having an outline, and it's still very challenging to, like, I'm always writing and reading, but it's still very challenging to write a column. And like over here, I've got an outline for a new column that I want to write. But like that I wrote back on August 12th, so a couple weeks ago, and I just have this outline, so I just have to sit down and actually write it. But so that's the column is the second piece of the Special Chronicles nonprofit platform, and then the stories on the website. It's how, when you don't have an editor, which I hopefully one of these days will that's one of the things that we will look into try to add. It'll probably end up being next year, but is some type of communications assistant. But the stories, we have one contributor who started when he was in 8th grade, and now he's in high school, and he doesn't contribute that much anymore, which I need to get back to to give him a call. But and then our contributor in New York, she's written some incredible pieces, and I even ran into some people at one of the receptions I was at for the 50th anniversary of Special Olympics who knew about Special Chronicles because of one of our contributors in New York, which is amazing.
Yeah, that happens. So you've got all these pieces, and it takes me back to sort of, while I'm not actively running CatholicMom.com anymore, certainly the genesis of the website for me started, very, very small, and has always been sort of, jumping into new paths. And as soon as we sort of halfway figure out one thing like podcasting, then all of a sudden you're into something new like video or whatever else it is. So I think what you're describing to me sounds very familiar, just because it's the path that I've been through. And I think it's why it's so good that, we have each other, that all of us who work in this realm, we work together and we pray for each other, and we know that we're not alone. And when the frustrations happen, I can't tell you how many times I just wanted to just say, okay, I'm going to let this go. This is too hard. I'm just a housewife and a mom, and I don't know how to do HTML code, or I can't figure out this, or, that there's something little about the mission that you're on, or maybe something great about the mission that you're on, that helps you to overcome the challenges. But one reason that I wanted to have you on is because I want people to understand both the importance of the work that you do, and also that they can learn from and participate in this. So folks who are listening, in the show notes, we'll have links to Daniel's many different activities and platforms so that you can take a look at this. And, if maybe you're somebody who's sitting out there thinking, well, I'm less confident about giving to XYZ organization, or I'd like to redirect some of my financial giving to something different. I want to propose Special Chronicles as a place where you can give, and you can be assured that what you're giving to makes a difference in people's lives. And that's because of the good work that Daniel's doing. So definitely check out our show notes. Daniel, I want to ask you, before we wrap up, I want to talk to you a little bit about Special Olympics, what that's meant to you. You're the only Olympian that I can call a friend. So I glom onto my medal winning Olympic friend. And you know how you got involved with Special Olympics, but then you've gone on to become someone for whom you carry that message out now. And you've even talked with people like Tim Shriver and, some of the people who are very high up in Special Olympics. Why does Special Olympics matter, and what has it meant for you in your life?
Well, it matters a lot to be not just a Special Olympics athlete, but a athlete leader as well. And I've been grateful to have had the opportunity to mentor new Special Olympics athletes and others to become, as we call global messengers, or to become athlete leaders themselves, to actually, where they actually got trained to be after me, where they've got trained themselves, but really what impels me about the whole movement of Special Olympics is that it's like what our athlete oath says, which is let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. Really we all, when we compete, which I still compete in swimming and in basketball, but we all still want to win. Even like our last basketball game last season, which was earlier this year, our game went into triple overtime, and I had the last shot, and we lost by 1 point. But we all still want to win. But in the end, it really, and I've written about this in some columns, well, it doesn't matter if we win. It's It just matters that we have fun and like what Tim writes about in his book, which I highly recommend if you or your listeners want to read Tim's book, which I've got it on my bookshop, a signed copy. His book is called Fully Alive, Discovering What Matters Most. But it's what really empowers me about Special Olympics is that it teaches us professionalism. It teaches us how to how to be kind and to be accepted and to be included. And it was such a wonderful opportunity that I had on July 18th, just 2 days before the actual 50th anniversary of Special Olympics, that I sat down with Tim in Chicago for a live in-person conversation, a 20-minute conversation that others have told me is a must listen to or a must watch. The YouTube, it's on our YouTube channel and our audio podcast as well. But it's really what I especially love about the next 50 years of Special Olympics is that it's really about inclusion, and as leaders in the inclusion revolution, there's this Generation Unified, which is young people really leading this movement that's led by now those of us Special Olympics athletes, but really even coming into schools now and communities where people without disabilities like yourself playing on the same team with a Special Olympics athlete like with myself, playing on the same team. And that really, what's called unified sports, that inclusion that starts on the playing field goes into the workforce, goes into the communities, will go into churches, but it goes beyond religions and politics, and like as Tim says, that there's really no boundaries within the movement of Special Olympics.
I love that, Daniel. So you're telling me that I could actually start playing basketball with you. That's super awesome. I don't think you'd want me on your team. You'd lose by more than 1 point, but I'd be a winner still. So what does your workout schedule look like? Because you must be, I mean, you can't just like jump in the pool once every few years and swim. Do you have a regular workout calendar that you follow?
So I never really was a big fan of exercise and
me neither.
Growing up, yeah. But it's really this Fit 5 health guide that Special Olympics has put out, and I've got the link bookmarked somewhere, but I personally don't really. I probably shouldn't say this on air, but as of currently, I don't really use the Fit 5 program per se. Mm-hmm. But on a regular basis, what I just this week I've kind of restarted my daily fitness schedule, particularly because our new swimming season is starting back up again the end of September, and then basketball beginning of November, the week of our 10-year celebration. But I try to walk at least 2 miles every day, and I also try to just take up a bike ride through the. Mm-hmm. We've got a forest preserve that's about 10 minutes from my house. Well, it's about a 10-minute bike ride from my house, and so I need to get better at bike riding a little bit more. I'm better with walking more, but I try to for the most part try to walk about 2 miles every day, and I want to get into. I want to get into yoga, and it's and the other neat thing about Special Olympics is that a lot of people think it's just one event, it's just one competition, but really it's year round. So
perfect. We
train year round, and it's not just for young kids, but it's for people in the 80s or 90s as well.
Daniel, what I'm curious what stroke you swim and what position you play in basketball.
So for swimming, I currently I tried 100 yards, but I wasn't that fast, so I actually went back down to what I currently do, which is 50 yards of freestyle and 50 yards of backstroke, and then 4x50 relay. And actually at our summer games, listeners can't wait to see this, and you probably can't see this on the Skype camera, but it's I got a bronze medal at this past June at our summer games in the 50 yards freestyle, which is usually faster with the backstroke, but freestyle. And then basketball, I believe. You'd think I would know a lot of the terms, but
you shoot, so you must be.
What?
You shoot the ball, so you must be.
Yeah. I believe it's a guard, or is it?
Yeah,
maybe it's
a shooting guard. That's what I thought.
Shooting guard or point.
Point guard.
I think it's a point guard, because I'm not that good at shooting, but I think if any of your listeners are actually good with the basketball terms, then they can tell us if I got it right.
Well, that's awesome. You inspire me, Daniel. So the thing that you said about recommitting to fitness, it happens to me like every Monday. So if you're talking to me, we're talking on a Friday. So I'll be recommitting to fitness on Monday. Oh, know it's a daily journey. Well, I could talk to you forever, but we're sadly short on time, and I want to let you get back to work. And I'm just wondering before, first thing, I want to have you on again in the future because like I said, I could talk to you all day. So I hope you'll come on again sometime soon. But then I'm just wondering if there's anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go.
Sure. Well, briefly, so one, I should probably mention a mutual friend of ours, Sarah K. Polkins, who just graduated from grad school this past June, I think. And she, so we met online, I think through Twitter, or she might remember better, but we went to the CNMC at different times. But I believe that you also met her, and that and Catherine had met her as well. But we joined together 2 years ago, I think in September 2016, when we did a commentary on the show Speechless on ABC from a disability perspective. And we did that for every episode of season 1, and then we got to the end of season 1 and realized what we were getting ourselves into, and then we did 2 episodes of season 2, and then who knows about season 3. But so listeners can stay tuned to. She didn't join me on this conversation with John Ross Bowie. I probably could have invited her, but the fact that we recorded video probably means that she probably would have been happy with just listening. I'm John Ross Bowie, who people will know from The Big Bang Theory on CBS, who played character who stutters, and just was such an honor to talk with him. And then Jonathan Murray. Well, that will be released this Sunday, so the week that people hear all conversation on your show, people can hop on over to Special Chronicles and hear the conversation with John Ross Bowie from Speechless, and then the week after that, people can hear Jonathan Murray, who's the executive producer of the Emmy-winning show Born This Way, which is a fascinating docu-series on A&E. But he is a executive producer of a new film called Deaf Out Loud about the deaf community, and fascinated. And I think John had said that I'm one of, if not, one of the only people that has a podcast on television. I don't know if you would consider YouTube and these digital platforms as TV, but
it's probably more watched than TV. No.
That's what my neighbor across the street said as well. So, but then just I guess one last thing is November 2018. We're having the biggest event that we're actually putting together, which is really, with having 2 of us handle the everyday stuff with Special Chronicles, is really overwhelming. But we're planning a 10-year celebration with probably about 120 people. We hope to have come back in the town of where I started Special Chronicles. And I'm not, even though you're releasing this podcast next week, I'm not going to reveal the date in time and location, because I'm going to be putting out a video, and on the email list for Special Chronicles is where I'm going to first announce it. If that's okay with you, we'll let people sign up for our email list and on specialchronicles.com, or they can follow at Special Chronicles on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and then at Special C Podcast on Twitter. And that's where that's where the first week of September we will actually announce the location, date, and time. We're still waiting on the MC. and a couple other. Well, that's the main thing that we're waiting to announce next week. But
nice. I'm curious now. So way to be a masterful marketer too, Dan. That you hold out the goods on us until we sign up for the email list. Well, Daniel Smrokowski, I mean, I just want to say thank you for your time this morning, but especially for your friendship and for what a great role model you are to me. I always learned so much from you, and I want to encourage everybody to follow Daniel and to follow Special Chronicles. We'll have a full list of links for social media and YouTube and the podcast and everything over at lisahendey.com. So that's where you can get a hold of Daniel's links. But definitely, since you're holding your iPhone in your hand right now, or sorry, you Android people, you're holding your Android in your hand right now, just go ahead and head over to your favorite podcatcher and grab the Special Chronicles podcast and just subscribe at YouTube too. I know that you'll be inspired by the good work and the great conversations that Daniel has with so many interesting people. So Daniel, I'm going to be watching for where that party is and checking my calendar for November, because maybe I can come be a part of that celebration, but I definitely will be there in spirit. And thank you, my friend, for the great work you do.
Well, thank you, Lisa. It's been an honor to be on your show, and I'm grateful that your audience will rejoin in the unified generation and lead in the inclusion revolution in joining us to always choose to include.
Choose to include. I think that's going to be the title for this podcast. I like that. So that's Daniel, and check him out. We'll have, again, all the links in the show notes. Listeners, I just want to thank you. This is episode number 25 of my tiny little podcast that's listened to by I don't know whom, but I just want to thank you for sticking with me for the first quarter of the podcast, and who knows where we'll go from here. But I think you can see that from today's conversation that this show is really all about helping people to share their stories. So if you have a story to share, reach out to me. I'd love to have you on a future show. And in the meantime, just know that I'm with you in prayer, that I hope you've had an excellent week, and I can't wait to be back again with you soon. So until next time, friends, God bless. Have a great week. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to Breadbox Media. Find more about us at breadboxmedia.com.